So hello and welcome everybody, and thank you for joining this online top focus conversation. Taking your event online, what could possibly go wrong? My name is Martin Gilbraith. I'm pleased to be facilitating for you today and delighted to have with me a couple of fellow ICA UK top trainers, Dawn Williams and Megan Evans. I think you probably know enough about me already from the links in the material you received in advance, but let me invite Dawn and Megan just to say a word or two about themselves. Dawn?
Morning everybody, lovely to be here. I'm based up in Northumberland, in the north of England. I'm an ICA UK lead trainer.
Thank you. Megan?
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm based just outside of Cardiff in Wales, so Croesio, which is Welsh for welcome.
Thank you very much. So all three of us are lead trainers in ICA UK's Technology of Participation Facilitation training. And our aim with this webinar and all of the sessions in this series are firstly to give you an opportunity to share and learn with each other on a topic of shared interest, in this case, taking your event online, but also in the process of doing that to get an experience of the ICA Top Focus Conversation method and an opportunity to learn a little bit about that method and for us to signpost you to further information about it. We've got quite a large group in a short amount of time today, so the session is going to be fast-paced, I hope, and fun. We're not here to demonstrate the tools of Zoom, so we'll be using the simplest possible Zoom tools available to enable a group of this size to have a conversation on this. But I would say, and now's a good time to say it, please do mute yourself if you're not speaking during plenary to minimize distractions to others. I'd encourage you to keep your webcam open if you're willing and able to do so, to make the whole session more lively and interesting for everyone.
Martin, sorry, you're muted. I cannot hear you.
Thank you. I think we've muted all. So if you're not aware, you can switch from speaker view to gallery view using the button at the top right of your screen, which means in case you're seeing only me, you've got a chance to see everybody else as well. And the final thing I'd like to say about Zoom is if you go to the bottom of your screen to the chat, you can use that to chat with each other and to share questions and comments during the session, and also to manage participants. So you can see who's here, the raise hand button to let us know if you'd like to speak. I think that's about all I need to say at this point. What will be much more interesting is to get to know each other a little bit, and in order for us all to find out who's here, I'd like to invite Megan to move us, as soon as she's ready, into breakout groups of 3 or so people, just for 3 or 4 minutes, just to say hello, introduce yourselves, and share anything you'd like to share about your interest in the topic. You ready for that, Megan?
Yep, here we go.
I think people will be muted when they come back. Welcome back, everybody. How was that? Did you meet somebody interesting? So far, so good? We're 30 now in the main room, so there's a few to come, but they'll all come flooding back in as soon as they get ejected from their breakouts. They come. Back, everybody. Welcome back. How was that? Did you meet somebody interesting?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
I'm sure it was short, but there'll be another chance for a bit more of that later on. In the meantime, please do continue to introduce yourselves in the chat. And what I'd like also to invite you to do in the chat right now is share something of your experience of this topic. We're here to share experience and insights on taking your event online. So if you've had an event that was scheduled for face-to-face and had to go online, either it's happened already or it's about to happen, maybe it was your event or your client's event or an event you're part of, just give us an example in the chat. Tell us anything you can about the event and how it happened, just a sentence or two each, and we'll see just what kind of experience do we have of taking events online. I'll give you a...
I'm really sorry to interrupt, Martin, but
Go ahead,
it's
Stefan.
getting so noisy with all the background noise. I can't hear at all.
I'll mute everyone now.
That would be a nice idea.
Thank you. So I hope that's quiet for everybody. Please do go ahead and type in the chat. And I'll give you a moment or two to think as we do that. So there's loads of experience being shared in the chat already, far more than I can keep up with. So let me invite Megan and Dawn to join with me in reading out one or two that catch your attention.
Marie has said all her facilitation work has moved online. So she's done seminars, workshops, conferences and meetings. So a wide range there. Dawn?
Monica is talking about organising some management board meetings with about 65 reps from different EU states, European Commission and European Parliament. That's to be organised in June. That's a big gig.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share something of what they've written or something of what they've read? Let's hear just one or two other examples. Please raise your hand in the participant list if you'd like to speak. And if the rest of you would like to keep typing, please feel free to do so. Anybody like to share something of what they've written or read? Eric, yes, please.
Yes, in Taiwan, we did an online open space last week. It's interesting. I'm complete.
Thank you. Thank you. Sarah Mumford.
I'm just learning to both do the Zoom meeting thing, and I didn't know, so thank you, that you could hit the participant list and then raise your hand and say yes, no, go slower, go faster. So there we are. Your training's working.
There's something to learn every time, isn't there? Thank you. And Zoom changes every time these days as well. Anyone else? Anything you'd like to comment on that you've read or that you've written?
Amy Chan has put her hand up. I'm not sure, I can't see you, Amy, but.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Amy.
Maybe you're on mute, Amy. You are on mute.
Okay, I have run some webinar and also Zoom sessions before. One thing I feel like very challenging is how to interact with the participants successfully, because a lot of time I feel like I'm just talking with the monitor without some people interaction. That makes me a bit frustrated because I used to face, and I guess something I need to overcome. Okay.
Thank you.
That's my sharing.
Thank you, Amy. And Susan, you have your hand raised. Susan Detweiler, please. You'll need to unmute. Are you there, Susan?
Yes, I am. I've spent most of the last 6 weeks teaching people how to go onto Zoom to have meetings. And I think one of the things we really have to be conscious of, and I've had to learn this over the time, is how to maintain that social lubrication amongst the participants when they're all facing forward.
Thank you. And let's take one last comment, well, two last comments from Kayla and Richard. And I encourage you to read what's in the chat as well listening, because we're going to ask you in a moment to comment on that. Kayla.
Just to say, we've just been taking the Climate Assembly UK online for the final of what would have been 4 weekends. It's 100-odd people from right across the UK. Wasn't what we were expecting to do, but it's been a massive learning curve of how do you try and have those more deliberative conversations and not just a call and response.
Thank you. Thank you. And Richard? Richard Deiter, are you there?
I'm here. I'm sorry, did I raise my hand? There I have been playing with all the buttons actually, so I'm very pleased. I think Sarah earlier said, "Oh, you can, and you know, there's something new that you can learn every time," and I quite agree with that, Martin. And I have just learned something new, and I'll be a bit more careful in the future.
No problem at all. Does anybody notice any patterns in the experience that you've been sharing in the chat? Anybody notice any patterns? I mean, apart from the obvious one that everything's happening online if it's happening at all these days. Anyone else? Megan or Dawn, did you notice any patterns? Oh, I see Stefan has raised his hand. Please go ahead, Stefan.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot of reactions have, no, not a commonality, but sometimes it's more difficult for the participants than for the facilitators. It is our tools, so we know already a little bit more than them. And what I noticed is that in the workshops and meetings I'm organizing online, you have to be more careful and more patient with the people to allow them to find out what is happening exactly online. For us, after a few meetings, it's okay, that's there, that's there. I can give a training in Zoom, on WebEx, whatever, but for the clients to adapt to it is, so you have to pace it a little bit slower altogether. That's
Thank
what
you.
and that's what I also read if I see the Zoom chat, the reactions of people. That's a commonality we have.
Thank you. Dragon, yes, please go ahead. Nice to see you.
Hello, Martin. I was trying to figure out if I raise my hand. I can't see. Where can I see that I raised my hand?
In the top left of your video image and also in the participant list.
It's not showing in the top left, but doesn't matter.
Do you see any pattern in what you've read?
What we have noticed, well, I was going to talk about the pattern that we have experienced. Everything takes longer online. And because so many things, and this is why we're here today, to talk about what could possibly go wrong, because so many things could go in an unexpected direction, the planning takes much longer. So that's two of our experiences. The planning takes longer and the event takes longer. Therefore, you need to be careful what you're expecting and planning to achieve.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else see any patterns? We're going to invite you to go back into breakouts for a little bit longer in a moment to share some stories about what's gone well and what's gone wrong. But any other patterns first of all? Or are you ready for that? Ivy, yes, please.
For the virtual setting, what I find interesting, I totally agree with some of the participant mentioning that to engage them is not easy, to keep the energy level is not easy. However, the interaction for a certain point, it could be pretty good, such as the polling or the sharing of the whiteboard. People can vote right away, and then all others can see the result all together on the screen. Very different from the physical face-to-face. So I think there is the juggle between two. One is that how to keep the energy level. On the other hand, actually many things could be happening like at the same time, and all other people can see what the result is. So that's the fun part, I think.
Thank you. Let's spend a little bit more time in breakout groups now, and I'll invite Megan to send you into slightly larger groups of about 4 people this time, and we'll give you a little bit longer, about 8 or 10 minutes. And I want to invite you to share some stories from your experience. What could possibly go wrong? What has gone wrong? And also, of course, what's gone well? Share some stories. What's gone wrong? What's gone well? Taking your events online. Are you ready, Megan? So welcome back, those who are arriving back. How was that?
Oh, that's interesting. I've just messaged someone, but they've unfortunately left the meeting. Drat.
Oh.
That's all right. Oh no, maybe they're coming back in. That's why. You cannot message people when they're in the breakout rooms, can you, Martin? I remember.
Welcome back, everyone. I think almost everyone's back. We're up to 95 again. I think that must be everybody. So welcome back, everyone. How was that? Some interesting stories shared. Let's hear one or two stories. Who would like to share an example of an event, meeting, workshop that was taken online? What went wrong and what went well? Let's hear a few examples. Please raise your hand in the participant list, and please feel free to share in the chat as well. I should have mentioned earlier, I've disabled saving of the chat for security purposes, so there's no viruses and that kind of thing shared, but I shall be documenting the chat and sharing it all with you afterwards. So that will be a way of harvesting some of the insights that come out of this conversation. Paul, thank you for raising your hand. Yes, please share a story, a brief story with us.
Good morning, everyone. I just shared that on my breakout room. I was eager to use Zoom breakouts features on a workshop with a client. And in the end, that client told me, sorry, we have to use Teams. So that was down, and we had to improvise and add a shared team session, and it all went wrong. And finally, the critical thing was that client was Microsoft, and they were very, very concerned that I have exposed them some failures on Teams. So finally, this worked out very well, but in the end, it's complicated. Don't fall in love with the tool, because your customers can have different requirements. That's my sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Bav, please go ahead.
Yeah, the story I shared happened yesterday. So I'm using Zoom. I had a training session. So when you log into your Zoom account, there's like a million options. So I was just pressing them, you know, kind of semi-randomly. Oh, I wonder what all this does. Anyway, a couple of hours later, the session starts. First half an hour goes well. Then I say, okay, let's go into breakout rooms. And the breakout room button had disappeared. So what I discovered was on Zoom, if you press remote support on, it automatically turns breakout rooms off and vice versa. So if you're going to mess with your settings, make sure it's all still working before you start. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it Negusu? Apologies for my pronunciation. Please go ahead.
Yeah, you are right, Martin. No
oh,
worries.
good.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm Negusu from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. So my experience has been mixed feelings. I have been using Zoom and another interesting platform called Jitsi Mate. So Jitsi Mate is an open source, free platform, if you don't know it. I found it actually more interesting than Zoom in many ways. Number one, it works under low bandwidth. So unlike Zoom, where you have poor internet connectivity, then Jitsi Mate is much better. So the major challenges I have experienced are one, keeping the people engaged. So I have then decided to give assignments to people as much as possible. So every time now I prepare for facilitation, I have a list of activities which I would announce from the very beginning to people so that they would take charge. Then internet connectivity is another big issue. So although Zoom has some fantastic features like breakout sessions, Jitsi Meet doesn't have a breakout session, but there is a tricky way of doing that. But somehow you have to weigh between internet bandwidth and then the good features of Zoom. So I change between Zoom and Jitsi Meet as convenient. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else like to share a story briefly from their experience? What went well or what went badly?
Yes, please. Hi, this is Maya in Hong Kong. I have been exploring alternatives to Zoom that also has breakout room. It was kind of hard to find good ones. And I came across Neural. I'm going to spell it over there in the chat room. Neural, it's a cloud-based video conferencing with Breakout Room, and it looks nice and easy to operate. But the downside is it drains your CPU a lot. So, and then I've been exploring it, and so I think I like it better than Zoom in many ways. However, the drainage kind of caused some trouble with people having to close apps. And then of the testing, the audio has been fine. And suddenly when I run it another time, there was an echo issue. And so like all these things, just somehow you didn't think of it, and then it pops up at some point. So always be prepared to find solutions quickly. Have the support page ready so that you can quickly search as soon as you come across something that you didn't think of, basically.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I see Yves Stefan has a hand raised as well. Please go ahead. And I'm aware we're already going beyond sharing stories to sharing tips and tools. So please do also, what have you learned from what went well and what went bad?
Thank you very much. The experience is last week, this Sunday, I organized a facilitation session on project management, and I was supposed to use Skype and Zoom at the same time because of the breakout session feature. So unfortunately, I'm in Cameroon, in Africa. We have very low internet connection. So it was very difficult to facilitate the session due to that. And also the participants are not real literate on the technology. So it's a little bit difficult when you're trying to do some facilitation online.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mads, go ahead, please. What have you learned from your experience?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I had a seminar actually this morning, and I found myself looking at, I'm always trying to look at people, how they feel when I do an offline. I feel the mood of the room and try to adapt as a facilitator, of course. And I kept looking at people, and I felt like they were tired. So I kept being more energized and trying to pour energy into this meeting, and people kept looking tired until I realized that they were just looking at their screen instead of at the camera. They're just looking down. So I constantly have to remind myself, people are not tired, they're just looking at the screen.
Right, right. Thank you. Anyone else, what have you learned? What are some tips and tools to making events not only better than wrong, but also making online meetings best, even more engaging, inclusive and productive than before? Any experience of that? I led a series of 5 online sessions, a European regional forum for the leadership of Amnesty International. Had a mention on it in a recent blog post. And some of the feedback we got after that was that not only was it inclusive and productive and engaging, it was better than their usual face-to-face meetings. Who knew that online meetings could be even better? Who's got experience of that? What does it take to make an online meeting even better than traditional face-to-face? Now, you'll have to excuse me if I mispronounce your name. Is it Ilse?
Yeah, I'm not sure that we are making, good morning everybody, that we are making online meetings better, but some tips which we learned, because we are working in with the countries which are not European countries, and they are countries with a lower penetration of the technology, if we would like to say. So that was for the smaller meeting. We expected 15 participants, but we dedicated some time before the meeting actually to connect with each participant in advance and to check their that they are able to connect via Zoom, because we organized via Zoom, that they are able to connect, that they know how to open the link, that they know where there is a chat box and where they can raise the hand, and to make sure that actually when the meeting will be there, that they will be able to connect. So we invested some time in advance to prepare the meeting. So there is more in the preparation. That's our tip. And I work in the European agency, and I see many of my colleagues here in the meeting as well. And now we are the group of the people who have experienced already online meetings. We are pooling our knowledge and resources together, even to provide some guidance for everybody. So just to share, even among the closest colleagues, because we are at home.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great tip. Charlotte in Denmark, nice to see you.
Sorry, hi, I just had to unmute. Hi, good to see you too, and thank you for hosting this. Yeah, well, in the municipality of Copenhagen, where I work these days, facilitating virtual sessions, you know, I hear again and again that people are so surprised that, you know, meetings and workshops usually taking 2, 3, or 4 hours. We do it in 1 hour, and people are like, oh, how is that possible? And I think the general reflection is that if a meeting is structured well, and if it's prepared well by the facilitator and the participants, then you get right to the point a lot quicker. That's the first thing I want to say. The other thing is, if anybody wants, I've developed a method from physical facilitation to put in virtual facilitation called exit poll. I'll type my email address in the chat box, and you feel free to email me if you want the method, and I'll translate it from Danish to English.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Eve, again, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Martins. I want to share some tips that we use to make facilitation very interesting online. What we do is we use Google Form to make it very interactive. When we ask the question and we want participant to provide input, we use the Google Form and we allow them to provide the input, and after then we share with the other participant. Another tool we use is Google Classroom. We use Google Classroom when we create like breakout session. We want them to work on some exercises. We provide them the different link for the different classroom. This permits them to work together, and at the end, when we come back, we use now the global session as plenary, and they can share what they have provided. We also use Google Doc to permit them to work together and to have the same document, and at the end, they can now document this. So these are the tools we have been using to really engage participants during virtual online sessions.
Thank you. Great. Let me just take the 3 more comments for people who've got their hand raised very briefly, please, and then I'm going to give you a few minutes more in breakouts. So Megan, please be prepared for breakouts of 3 again. Kate, first of all, Kate Monkhouse.
Hi. I've been hosting more reflective sort of spiritual experiences as well as team meetings, and I've been trying to involve things like hand things, you know, and encouraging people to breathe. Just because one of the things I really value about ICA is everybody's voices matter, and that may be harder for some people. So inviting things where people are, you know, it kind of helps you move your body a little bit, and just to keep people kind of oxygenated and that they feel part of it, even if they don't feel able to speak or add into the chat. So
thank you.
That's worked really, really nicely.
Thank you. Anna Breska. Are you there, Anna? You must be muted.
Yeah, I'm here. I just unmute. My lessons learned was to give also participants chance for interaction and to talk about their personal stories, and what you've done also in this session, because the virtual communication is good to solve certain problems, and it's important to save some time at the beginning as icebreaker and get everybody known to each other, to introduce each other, and to give space for each participant. Because in virtual communication, if you have a big group, it's really very tough. I had 20+ participants, and only introduction took us half an hour, and it was good that it was a series of workshops, and we've spent time at the beginning to get that introduction around, because for the further sessions we just saved time and went faster. And it was my first lesson learned, and the second one, to invest as much as possible in preparation. to get all participants already on board and to make them prepared for the session to make it as productive as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kawam, last comment, and apologies to Marco and others who have their hand raised. Kawam, are you ready?
Yeah, I wanted also to share one tool that helps to engage participants and remain focused, and it's called Mentimeter. I posted in chat. If you don't know it, go there, try it, and check the results. And that's all from me.
Thank you. I've used Mentimeter a lot as well. Love it. Thank you. So let's go to breakouts just for another 3 or 4 minutes, if you're ready, Megan. And in your final breakouts, I'd like to invite you to share what's one tip or tool that you can take away from this session and apply. What's one tip or tool that you can take away and apply? Are you ready? This looks like everybody's coming now. Here we are. Welcome back, everybody. I hope that was valuable. Please do share in the chat any of those top tips and tools that you would take away and apply. It'll be great to capture some of those and make them available to all of you afterwards and to others. And let's hear just maybe 2 or 3. Has anybody learned something that they're very excited about from this session that they would like to share? Please go ahead and raise your hand in the participants list if you've learned something new and exciting that you're excited to share. Sometimes the simplest things are the most exciting. Anybody got one of those? Yes, Anna, please.
Martin, I'm very excited. How did you apply ORID, the focused conversation method, for this virtual session?
Thank you. Well, that's what I'm coming to in a moment.
And I really enjoy how you can use the classical ICA method even for a virtual environment.
Thank
it's
you.
Also my takeaway.
Thank you for the segue. I shall come to that in just a moment. Does anybody else want to raise their hand and share anything they've excited to have learned today? Eve, yes, please.
Yeah, Martin, one great thing is the way you facilitate these sessions. You do it with a lot of professionalism, with a lot of experience, something that we do it physically, you're able to do it online, permit participants to engage and to be able to share their experience. It's amazing. So this is something definitely I have learned a lot from this session.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I was certainly hoping that there'd be something to learn from the process as well as the content. So thank you for that. Delighted to know it. Eric, yes, please.
Yes, I also admire you can listen and watch and talking together, and you and Don and your co-host Megan, you do a wonderful job to switch from team to team, and for such a 100% in such a fluent way. I'm amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Luane, is it Luane Chan?
Yeah, I'm so glad that I actually joined late. I'm so glad to hear all the tips and sharing. This is already a good support to me, knowing that I'm not alone.
Thank you. Thank you. And let me take a last comment from Mads before I share something about the method I've been using.
Sure, I'll be quick. I'll just say I'm really excited about how well it works with this huge group of faces, and I'm excited about seeing so many homes.
Isn't it fascinating to see inside people's homes in this time? Yeah. Thank you. So this session was an opportunity for you to share and learn from each other about your experience of taking events online, what could go wrong, but also what can go well and what can we learn from it. But it was also an opportunity for us to give you an experience of the ICA top focus conversation method applied in an online environment. So I want to take the opportunity to share just for a couple of minutes a little bit about that. I'm sure many of you, well, I know many of you are familiar with the method, and I'll be sharing links to further information afterwards. But just to say that the top focus conversation method is built upon a model of how we as human beings experience life. how we think, how we draw conclusions, how we behave. And the model says that we experience life through our senses, through taste, touch, smell, etc. We have some sort of intuitive, emotional or gut reaction to our sensory perception. And it's based on both our sensory perception and our gut intuitive reaction to it that we make sense of our experience. And based on all of those three levels, that we come to some sort of a conclusion, resolution, or even decision or action. So this is a model. It's a very powerful model for any kind of facilitation design, actually, not just conversation. It's a model of human process. And given that facilitation is intentional design and leadership of human process, what better model could there be to design a process to enable a group to achieve a goal together? So the way the model applies in the focused conversation method is that we essentially design a series of questions to lead a group through these four levels in turn together. So the conversation will have an aim. In this case, the rational aim, what we wanted you to know, understand, or decide as a result of the conversation was to learn something from each other's experience about taking events online. And the experiential aim in this case was to give you an experience of the method, but also to get you intrigued and hopefully excited by the possibilities for the method and for online facilitation. My questions in this case, it was really just one question at each level. I started off with who are we and what experience do we bring? So I asked you to introduce yourselves, share something of your interest in the session, and give some examples of events and workshops in your experience that have been taken online. The reflective level is also about associations as well as emotional or gut reactions. And so in this case, I asked you to share stories of meetings and events that have gone well or have gone wrong. So you were sharing memories, experiences. I also asked you to identify patterns in your experience. In this case, at the interpretive level, I asked you, what have you learned from these experiences? What made the difference between the meetings that went well and the meetings that went badly? And what are some tips and tools in order to make meetings not only better, but actually best, better than they could have been face-to-face? And at the decisional level in this case, I asked you what's one tip or tool that you would take away or document in the chat for our harvest afterwards. That's essentially how the focused conversation method works. There's a great deal more to it than that. And in our ICA top facilitation training, we spend an entire day on this method to give people a really thorough grounding on it. That's the basis of it. It is the foundation of ICA's technology of participation methodology, which is the methodology ICA has developed in over 50 years, working with communities and organizations worldwide. The others, consensus workshop, action planning, strategic planning, and so forth, are each built on the ORID model, the same model as focused conversation. I shall be circulating some links to all who've registered for this session probably tomorrow, shortly after the session. So I will share some further resources. Just to say at this stage, the Art of Focused Conversation, very valuable resource. If you're interested in that, you can find it in all online booksellers. The Group Facilitation Methods course is available face-to-face, or it's usually available face-to-face all over the world from a number of different ICAs. It is also available online from ICA Associates in Canada. And I have a course scheduled with Joe Nelson of ICA Associates in Canada for group facilitation online at the end of June. There are also other ICA courses coming up and shorter. I've got some 2.5-hour introduction to facilitation online sessions. Also on the ICA website, you'll see virtual facilitation training as well. The last one, I think, coming up this week or next week. So there'll be more resources coming shortly, as I say. With that, however, we're almost out of time. What I'd like to invite you to do is share a little bit of feedback on the session. And Megan, I wonder, are you ready with a closing poll? Thank you. Please do also share any qualitative feedback in the chat, but give us a sense from the poll. How did you enjoy the session? How was the pacing and balance and so forth? How would you rate the session?
Martin, I got to go now. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Thank you, Charlotte. We are almost out of time, so if you have to go, thank you for joining. Please do share any further feedback in the chat when you've finished the poll. And if anybody would like to stay around for a few minutes after the session closes, you're also welcome to do that. I don't need to rush off immediately. If anybody would like to share any feedback verbally, we'd love to hear it as well. Please open your mic. We've got, everybody's voted, Megan, so if you'd like to share the results of the poll. 50% enjoyed the session, 56 felt it was well paced, 53 agreed some insights and that they could take something away. Thank you all very much indeed. I'm going to stop the recording with that. And as I say, do stay on afterwards if you'd like to chat a little longer. Thank you also, Megan and Dawn. Appreciate it.